The following is a selected video from masterthecontent.com, where you will find an extensive video library of lectures for a variety of standardized admission tests. We offer over 600 hours of detailed video lectures for a multitude of standardized tests. Use our interactive in-lecture table of contents to find specific topics of interest. Work through numerous in-lecture examples to help you internalize concepts. To learn more, visit masterthecontent.com. Your career, our passion.
Levers and the human body. Movement in the human body is caused by muscles and bones, and it's the ends of muscle fiber and tendons actually attach the ends of muscle fibers to bones, right? So here, what ends up occurring is, in a nutshell, you have an electrical stimulus, right, that goes from the brain, right, to the muscle, and that electrical stimulus, what it's going to do is it's going to cause the muscle to contract and shorten, and once it does that, it puts a tension force on the bone, right? And that tension force, if it's not balanced, it's actually going to cause that bone to rotate around a pivot point or a joint. And in our example here, that's going to be the elbow joint. Wonderful. So we'll quickly, once again, just summarize the structure and the role before we get into doing examples of working with examples on the human body. Wonderful. Bones act as a lever to facilitate movement. Muscles provide the force needed to move the bones of the lever system. Tendons attach muscle to bone, which allows the muscle to work the bone as a lever. Ligaments attach bone to stabilize joint. Nerves stimulate and coordinate muscle contraction. Wonderful. Now let's be ready to go on to our next slide. Wonderful. Example, identifying classes of levers in the human body. Identify the class of lever in each of the following examples. In figure 4.12, we'll begin here with A. The resistance is the weight of the head. The pivot is going to be at the fulcrum, and the fulcrum there is going to be between the head and the atlas. And the atlas is going to be your first vertebrae of your cervical vertebrae, right? And the force here, that's going to be your muscular force provided by your postural muscles. For example, your trapezius. Now, if you've ever noticed, if you're ever taking a long trip and you've fallen asleep sitting in the passenger seat of a car and your head starts to bob, that's because it's those postural muscles that right here that relax, right? That causes that bobbing that takes place. Wonderful. Now, with this arrangement, right, of resistance, pivot point, and force, is that a first, second, or third class lever? You guessed it. First class lever. Wonderful. Now let's move on to our second example here. We have the arrangement of the pivot point, right? That's going to be actually your fulcrum, right? That's going to be at your metatarsophalangeal joint right there at the fulcrum there. Then you have your resistance, which is the weight of the body here, right? And then the force, which is going to be your muscular force, right? That's going to be your calf muscles, right? Through your Achilles tendon here, they're pulling on that calcaneus bone, as you see, and that there is going to be your force. Now, is this arrangement of a pivot point, resistance, force, and once again, resistance is in between pivot point and force, is that an example of a first, second, or third class lever? You guessed it. That there is a second class lever. Wonderful. Now, let's move on to our last our figure 4.12c, and we see here that the pivot point is going to be your fulcrum right here, your elbow joint, right? And your force is your muscular force provided by your biceps muscle, right? And the resistance is going to be the weight. Now, with this arrangement of resistance, force, and pivot point, is this a first, second, or third class lever? This, you guessed it, is a third class lever as such.